Hey witches! Welcome to an extra special bonus video for Gretchen's Misadventures Episode 5, Psycho Mirror. Today, we're unveiling a newspaper article, 2 spellbinding short stories, and an exclusive bonus illustration that reflects the heart of the magical chaos. Buckle up for a roller coaster of enchantment! Seductive Mirror. Nora sat cross-legged on the cold flagstones in her workroom, staring at the mirror. Somewhere in the back of her mind she knew she should tend to the waning coals in her fireplace, but she couldn't tear herself away from the Queen's radiance. Her image was perfect, the absolute regal bearing of a woman of unmatched power. Nora couldn't understand why she couldn't see things plainly before, how witches should be set above all others, as was their birthright, and how she could serve at the Crimson Queen's right hand, once she was out of the mirror. "You shall gather an army for me, Nora Brightstar," she crooned. Nora nodded dumbly and stood to fetch a scrap of parchment from her desk. Her falcon could take word to Gretchen. Her friend could summon the others. She scrawled a note in haste and pulled her winged falcon familiar from his brass cage. She sent him off out the window in a daze and returned to the mirror, hoping for a word of praise. A smile spread over the Queen's lips, and she leaned in closer to the glass that separated her from the world. "Good. We must be away, Nora. We shall find a young woman who can bear my soul. She will carry us to the greatest of glory." Nora blinked and nodded. She would do as the Queen wished. "It is the kingdom of Extor that we will bring to its knees first. Once we have it in a firm grip, the entire continent will be our prey." Nora flinched, then blinked. There was a niggling drifting in her mind. Each time she stumbled on its source, it dissipated like a swirl of smoke. Strong feelings of vengeance realized replaced it, and she cackled mightily. "It will be as you say," Nora nodded eagerly. "I'll fetch a cart from the stable." Nora stumbled from her workroom into the dead of night in the Baron's courtyard. She'd be gone come morning, and would only return to unseat the snivelling lord when the time came. After that, she would make it her business to hex him until the end of her days. Newsflash: the official account, dangerous coup thwarted, a hex to bring down a kingdom. Notorious sorceress Nora Brightstar has been named as the responsible party in the recent coup against King Rupert of Extor. The hag, known for her hexing proclivities, had reportedly accosted a maiden, whom she instilled with foul magic to bring a king to his knees. While the witch has been brought to justice and is in the Baron of Greenhaven's custody, the events do call for a thorough investigation. We must ask ourselves as a nation if laws are adequate to deal with those of the magical caste, whether the threat of magic outweighs the convenience of everyday remedies brewed by their ilk. The fair maiden is now recovering in seclusion, and the king recalls little of the events. In a statement he declared, "I am glad to have my dear wife Queen Edwina back at the palace, and am making a swift recovery. We shall carry on without fear of which kind." The power for good. Cordelia reached to touch Agnes's shoulder as the old woman sat slumped sentinel over the shards. The woman had scarcely rested since returning from Extor, and while Cordelia applauded her steadfast commitment, she wouldn't see the old woman run into the ground, not when it had taken all of the Academy's might to convince the king not to turn the remnants over to the Wizards' Guild. She would need Agnes's skills to bind the enchantment beyond reproach. The old woman startled and sat up blinking. "Vice-Chancellor, I only nodded off for a moment. Go to your bed, Agnes." Cordelia smiled warmly. "I can take this watch, and come morning you can approach the task with vigour." Agnes sagged and nodded. "Thank you, Vice-Chancellor." Cordelia watched the old woman leave studiously, relieved she didn't put up any kind of argument. The council had warned against leaving any witch with the mirror for lengthy periods, and though Agnes had always been staunch, she worried over the influence the enchantment may yet be capable of. She took up Agnes's chair in the shadows of the vault and cast her eye over the pieces of glass arranged on the floor. Though the only light source was a constant white glow from hanging orbs on the ceiling, Shadows flickered across the hundreds of reflections, almost as one, like a shape was moving across them. Cordelia refrained from squirming in her seat, but the notion that the creature capable of bringing down a nation was lurking at her very feet was unsettling. Nora Brightstar was made of stern stuff, and if she was so easily glamoured— "Cordelia Mirkwood!" a crooning voice called. The Mirkwood favoured with the intellect of her ancestors, unlike her simpleton sister. Cordelia blinked and pushed away the sense of gratification that came from those words. "Be silent. We shall have your poisonous tongue bound for all eternity." Mirthless laughter sounded, and Cordelia wrung sweaty palms in her lap. "Of course, and throw away any chance of the Academy becoming great again. A bunch of toothless tigers assembled to pay lip service to the king. How far this place has fallen." Not for the first time, Cordelia wondered who the woman had been before coming to the mirror. How many years she may have dwelled underneath the surface of reality. She had yet to even establish how Nora had come by the mirror in the first place, and if she could learn more. "Tell me of yourself," Cordelia grimaced at the crack in her voice. "How does a witch who promises greatness become trapped in an enchantment of her own design?" The chuckle that sounded reverberated through the stone floor, and Cordelia sucked in a sharp breath through her nose. "Trapped, you say? What if I chose this? I am not so pretentious as to claim unlocking the secrets to immortality, but this is close. There is wisdom in waiting for a world that is ripe for the picking. The lands have become soft in their complacency. The time of the witch has come." Although Cordelia felt bile rise in her gut, the words spoke to her inner yearnings. She couldn't trust herself to speak, and worried the witch was peering into her very soul. "Come now, Cordelia," the voice clucked. "Nora Brightstar was a means to an end. Imagine what the likes of you and I could achieve together. The youngest Vice-Chancellor in the history of the Academy. A true woman of worth with impeccable lineage. A woman of vision who knows the world would be a better place in the hands of our kind." Cordelia's eyes felt heavy, and the words struck chords deep within her being. The monarchs she served were idiots. The plight of witches was real. Wizards weren't to be trusted. They could do things better. The sound of the vault's door swinging open snapped Cordelia from her reverie, and she held a hand to her chest as Agnes shuffled in. "Forgive me, Vice-Chancellor," she nodded. "I almost forgot to give you these." The old woman proffered a pair of earplugs, and Cordelia plucked them from her palm with a quizzical look. "Enchanted to keep that creature from nattering at you all night." Agnes yawned and wiped her eyes. "Though I'm sure you would have done just fine without them." Cordelia nodded gratefully and stuffed in the plugs the minute Agnes left. It had been a close call. The experience only left her more certain the mirror must never leave their walls. In the hands of wizards, they would all be in grave danger. And finally, we have this illustration by Rod Savely, which shows the real face lurking behind the shards of the mirror. We hope you enjoyed all the bonus bits from episode 5, Psycho Mirror. If you're hungry for more magical misadventures and exclusive behind-the-scenes goodies, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Until next time, may your days be filled with magic, mystery, and a touch of mischievous fun.